Hello again! In this third part of the training series, How to Mix Live Music, we are going to get the mixing console connected to all the other sound equipment, microphones, amplifiers and loudspeakers. You should aim to do all your connecting before switching on the power. But before we begin connecting, let's do some planning. We're going to start with a stage plot. A simple drawing of the venue and stage showing where each musician is going to set up, where their monitor speakers are going to be, and where the main public address speakers will be. Then we can list all the microphones that will be needed and DI boxes if necessary. What are DI boxes? DI means direct injection. Because the electrical output of instruments such as keyboards and guitars are not suited for use with long cables, a DI box will convert the signal. It will change from unbalanced, using 2 wires, to balanced, using 3 wires. They are not needed with MGP and TF mixers. If the instruments are within about 10 meters, just plug them in directly. However, you will need them for most of the instruments if you are using a long multi-core or snake cable between the stage and the mixer. Next, make a list of where the inputs are going to connect to the mixer. And think about the mixer layout and the stage layout and what is going to be convenient. Think about this. As the mixer inputs go from left to right, you might want to track the position on the stage. Or you might want the least frequently used inputs on the left and the most important ones grouped together on the right. Or follow the traditional order and place drums starting with channel 1, followed by bass, guitars, keyboards, brass and vocals. An additional consideration with the MGP32X is which channels are going to need compression, because it's not available on channels 1 to 8. We'll talk about that in a later chapter, but inputs such as bass, kick and snare might benefit from a little compression. So you may need to revise your order of inputs accordingly. Then plan for your outputs in a similar way, for the auxes and the main outputs. The TF mixer doesn't have specific output connections. You have to go to the setup menu and the Omni out to check it. Then get your labeling tape out and mark them up. At least on the TF mixer, you can type channel names above the faders and give them colors, or use preset names for extra speed. On MGP, you could use colored pens or colored tape. Anyway, get your console organized, then start connecting your microphones and your speakers. When you position your main speakers for public address, make sure they are in front of all the microphones, closer to the audience. You need to avoid the microphones picking up the sound from the speakers and causing a loud howling noise. Raise the main speakers above head height and tilt them towards the audience. Try to make sure they don't face the back or the side walls head on. You need to minimize sound reflections. When positioning floor monitors on stage, make sure they are pointing directly at the heads of the performers. Position them so their sound travels away from the audience. Position microphones so their rear, where the cable plugs in, is towards the floor monitors. Live sound microphones pick up sound mostly from their front, some from their sides, but very little from their rear. So this is the safest angle to avoid feedback. We shall talk more about choosing and positioning microphones for drums, vocals, guitars and brass in the next video, so keep a lookout for that. However, if you're careful with the mic and speaker placement, it will make the mixing process much easier. Now let's turn on the power to the console. But don't switch on the amps yet. Make sure the mixer outputs are turned down or switched off first. to avoid any unexpected noise. Then power on the amps and speakers, but keep their levels turned down low until you're confident that the system's gain structure is safely set. We'll talk about that a couple of chapters later, but in the next video, we will select the right type of microphone for each instrument or vocal and carefully position them on the stage. After that, we'll start bringing sound into the mixer and we'll learn about phantom power, input gain, and polarity. Don't miss it.